Hey, and welcome in to another edition of the North Idaho Prepcast here on IdahoSports.com. It's season 5 and episode 12 as we are just wrapping up the month of October and heading into volleyball state, cross country state, football starts next week, soccer just wrapped up. It is hectic up here in North Idaho and all around the state of Idaho and high school sports. As always, this Prepcast is brought to you by Cornerstone Insurance, our proud sponsor, and it's always streamed on Facebook, YouTube, and X account. If you have time, make sure you can give us a like, share, and follow. Find the way to either our main accounts on Facebook, YouTube, X, and make it happen. Get more content spread around the state of Idaho. Without further ado, bring on our co-host Ryan Scaggs. Scaggs, how you feeling this week?
We're good. I mean, after the tie break on Monday, blood pressure came back down a little bit, so we're ready for Friday night. I'm excited for this week, and it's playoff time, and it's been playoff time in many sports, and state championship time in some sports as well. So it's a busy time of year for everybody. I know us at Idaho Sports, we are going to be we got a long way to go and a short time to get there. We're going to be probably pulling some double duty next week, doing Friday games and Saturday games. So should be a whole lot of fun.
It's gonna be that's gonna be a lot. That's for sure. We're ready for it. But we're gonna start off. We talk a lot about football. We're gonna start off in the soccer realm. There was state soccer tournaments last week for really just 4A and 5A up north. 6A didn't qualify, sadly. Maybe next year that'll be a different story. But we're gonna start off in the 4A girls soccer world, where Timberlake was the 8th seed. They had to play a tough Sugar Salem team. Came up short. That team coasted to state. I think they've won their 3rd straight this year. They are a dynasty, as simple as that. And then Timberlake had to play Sun Valley Community School, came up short there, went 2-0. Coeur d'Alene Charter played Kimberly, lost a tight one to Kimberly. Kimberly's a pretty solid school as well, and then ended up losing in the loser out to American Falls. Tough draws for the 4A girls on the soccer side.
Yep. Yeah. Excuse me. And I mean, you're running into a buzzsaw when you get Sugar Salem that outscores the opponents in the state tournament 16-1 in their 3 games. I mean, that is just an outstanding showing from Sugar, and like that's just a great team. It's a hard draw. I mean, state's hard no matter which way you slice it. And Coeur d'Alene Charter and Timberlake both, I know, wanted to have better finishes than they did, but they went 2 in barbecue, as Brandon Bainey would say. So just the unfortunate way of the draw this year and matchups, and just, I mean, you're playing on the road. I know of the last few years it's been up north, so didn't have the home cooking this year to their advantage.
Not quite. We're going to flop around here. We're going to go 5A boys soccer, as Sandpoint was the only school that got a bid and came in as the 3 seed and won a real tight game against Skyline, won 3-2, and then ended up coming up short to a Wood River team that won handily in the state championship match. I don't want to say that semis with Wood River was the real state title, but I think Sandpoint gave them the best competition that they had seen this far this year.
Yeah, and I mean, that's just Sandpoint's conference, playing the 6A schools too, and played into the seed line. I think it could have been seeded differently. There wasn't a lot of disparity between 1, 2, and 3. And that's just the unfortunate way it shook out this year, having to play Wood River and losing in OT 3-2. And you never want to lose back to back, and then they end up losing in the 3rd place match against Twin Falls 2-1, and still finishing playing on Saturday. That's a big deal going to state. But the absence of the blue trophy, that's kind of the downside of that one, is that you really wanted. They had high hopes this year with this group and ended up coming up just short.
Yeah, this was definitely a team that was, looked at as championship or bust. Landon Brinkmeyer had 9 saves against Skyline, or not Skyline, but Wood River. And so really good performance on the defensive side of the ball. I think Wood River was putting up really close to what their season average was of 5 goals a match. That was pretty common. So for them to keep them in check, I mean, hats off to Sandpoint. Well, let's look at the good brackets, if you will. Let's start with 4A boys soccer. We have one state champion, Coeur d'Alene Charter. They go 3-0 versus Marsh Valley, take down Sun Valley Community School 2-0, and then they play McCall Donnelly and beat them 1-0. They give up 2 goals all year and win their first state title in school history.
That's a huge deal for CDA Charter, and they've been starting to climb that mountain the last few years. We've been seeing them play really, really tough, and finally to get over the hump and get that state title is just a big deal for that group. And it was a great tournament for them. I mean, not giving up a single goal in the state tournament is hard, and doing it against the caliber of teams that they saw, I mean, I think is even more kind of eye popping. And Bonners Ferry, kind of sneaks in there playing in the consolation match on Saturday, and they lost 2-1 to Teton. Bonners Ferry played from the backside and did probably, I think they exceeded some people's expectations up here to be able to make it as far as they did, coming out of the 6th seed, getting a win over Ambrose, and then losing to Teton was kind of a big deal there. And then I think a lot of folks were looking at Wendell as probably the favorite to win that whole thing. And then McCall Donnelly pulls the shocker and gets the 2-1 win on Friday in that tournament, and they ended up taking 3rd place, winning 2-0 over Sun Valley Community School. So a really balanced tournament. I think of all the brackets you kind of look at with metrics and seeding and all that stuff, this one was seeded pretty darn good. I don't think people could have complained too much about this one, but CDA Charter was the cream of the crop this year in 4A soccer, and it showed. They played lights out and brought home the title, and congratulations to that group.
Absolutely. A couple things I want to bring up in this state championship match. They had 2 lightning delays. The first one was for 48 minutes in the first half, and then the second one was for another 38 minutes with 10 minutes left in the second half. So just ridiculous amount of composure for a team to have to hold on through that entire match, have the delays.
Well, I mean, the 5A was it 5A or 6A got bumped to Monday night?
6A boys.
6A, yeah. I mean, they had to bump the whole championship match 2 days because of lightning.
Yeah, I think that's I don't know. Maybe they should change where these tournaments are held, because that's a tough draw, but that's a really, really great job by Coeur d'Alene Charter keeping it together, coming away with a victory. Again, 2 goals given up on the year. That's just absurd. All right.
Yeah, we do all North Idaho, like the North Idaho Hall of Fame awards at the end of the year, and each spring they do that at the Coeur d'Alene Resort. You could see that Coeur d'Alene Charter team being in the mix for Team of the Year. I mean, just that stat alone, giving up 2 goals in an entire high school season, that's gaudy. That is crazy how hard that would be. And hats off. I mean, that says a lot about the defense, the discipline on the defensive side of the ball, and also the goalkeeper. Just to have the focus for an entire season of just only giving up 2, so that's a huge deal for that team, and congratulations on their state championship.
Absolutely. Got the second one for the North. Ella Wilson got the first state championship in golf. We got one in soccer. We got to keep it up, one sport at least for North Idaho. We'll see if we can keep it rolling. All right, 5A girls. Let's start at the top. Sandpoint played number 1 Hillcrest, and they were up 2-0 in this game, and it was tied in the 79th minute. And before it actually, I take that back. Hillcrest tied the game 2-2 in the 79th minute. So darn near the end of the game, and then ended up winning in overtime. Sandpoint was in a premier spot to knock off the number 1 ranked team. Hillcrest came up short. The weird stat that Max Oswald brought up to me: Sandpoint had 3 shots on goal, meaning they were 66% on their attempts. That's insane. And Hillcrest had 15. So they were getting way more looks. The game was played on Hillcrest's side of offense. And so the fact that Sandpoint even had a chance is remarkable. And the fact that they almost won is another just testament to how this team played. So hats off to Sandpoint. They then were able to beat Middleton in penalty kicks, and then came up short against number 3 Skyline in the consolation bracket. So Sandpoint, snuck in, was able to beat Moscow in the district tournament to get into that spot, and for them to come away with playing in the consolation is definitely an accomplishment for Sandpoint.
And playing in the play-in too, I believe, right?
No, so
No,
Moscow was the
they got
team
the
that
true
played in the play.
second bid. That's right.
So Moscow was the team that had to go play, I believe it was Wood River in McCall, and I
Yes.
think they won 3-0. So they won that match, and then they got set with number 4 Middleton. They were able to take them down fairly easily, and then they were able to upset number 1 Hillcrest, and after in penalty kicks 4-3. And then comes the state championship, and it's 5 versus 6. Number 5 Moscow versus number 6 Valley View. There's a real chance you would have had the lower seed winning every single first round game if Hillcrest could have, if Sandpoint could have came through, which is really insane. And Moscow ends up winning in double overtime against Valley View. Just a remarkable performance by Moscow, and that's their first state title in program history.
And
as
I
well.
think we mentioned that last week, was like, this tournament is pretty notorious for the low seeds coming away with some wins and surprising some people. And here we are, 5 versus 6 in the state championship match. Goes to 2 overtimes and they lose 1-0. They win 1-0. Just a huge, testament to Moscow and the grit and the determination. You thought that they probably could have ran out of gas, getting so many matches that just, they went the full slate on PKs against Hillcrest, and then the match against Middleton. They played the play-in match on Saturday prior. Like, there's just a whole lot going on, and you have to do the 3 games in 3 days. They could have made some excuses on why they fell short, and they surmounted that battle of attrition, and they were able to climb the mountain and get the title. So hats off to the Bears on getting the victory, and Sandpoint, battling against a tough Middleton team, getting the PKs, and then ultimately losing the Skyline in the consolation championship. But just great showing from districts 1 and 2. I think it's especially in 5A this year.
Totally agree with you. Moscow finishes their season 13-2-5. Kiana Winther had 6 saves in that state championship game to help them knock off number 6 Valley View. So yeah, two state titles in soccer. I think that's something at the beginning of the year. If you would have said that was happening, I don't know if we would have all thought that. And so that's quite the accomplishment for both Coeur d'Alene Charter boys and the Moscow girls.
I wouldn't have picked it at 5A and 4A boys, maybe. I don't know. I probably would have said, like, hey, 6A girls and 4A boys, maybe. But and then we didn't even have a 6A team from the north playing down there. So yeah, just kind of an interesting showing, but a great showing for the north, and really showing that these 5A teams having to play up in that 6A schedule with the other IEL schools, like, just absolutely helps. Helps you towards tournament time, raising the level of competition.
Yeah, I don't want to touch on it too much more. I want to get off my soapbox, but man, it would have been cool to see Lake City playing as the number 1 ranked team in the Max Prep rankings last weekend. But it is what it is. Matt Rutke can, work towards next year. That's always going to be his goal. Well, let's switch gears to volleyball. Let's start at the bottom. Let's start at 1A volleyball. That tournament's going to be held at Coeur d'Alene High School. And we have a couple of qualifiers from District 1 and 2, Coeur Christ and Genesee. Scaggs, it's Coeur Christ's first appearance in state tournament in their program, in their, second year being IHSA eligible. And Genesee back in the tournament field. What can we expect from these 2 teams come this weekend?
And Coeur Christ didn't get a favor on the seed line because they're playing my favorite, which was Horseshoe Bend. I picked them at the beginning of the year to be probably the team out of 1A that I thought had the best chance of winning a state title going into the season. I still like their chances, but Coeur Christ is going to have a tough go. I could see them playing from the backside and maybe winning a game there against a Rockland or Mackey maybe, but they're going to have some tough sledding. And then you look at Genesee. Genesee's gonna have, they've got Cary round 1. I think that's a winnable match. They're gonna have their hands full if Salmon River ends up beating Leadore. That's gonna be you could say that would be like the setup for a state championship match as far as quality of opponent. Those 2 teams playing in a semifinal definitely has the semifinal flair, and they may not be done if Genesee ends up making the state championship match and then having to play back in on the backside. You could realistically see Salmon River and Genesee play again. So something to keep an eye on. It's going to be a busy week up here up north with 2 volleyball tournaments in town, one at Coeur d'Alene and one at Post Falls. So, or is it at Lake City? I'm trying to remember, but sorry, my
We'll have to go
brain's not
through.
working.
My memory's
Yeah,
not that good either. I don't have a clue right
it's been a
now.
long week already.
It's telling me everything here. All right, 2A. Let's first. I didn't touch on this. 2A Post Falls. 2 teams that qualified. 3 teams: Cami, Troy, and Wallace. Let's start with Wallace. Wallace played Lakeside. They were the number 2 team the whole year, and had no. Really, it wasn't really close when they played Lakeside. They lost both matches. And district tournament time comes around. They're in the state championship, and it's best 2 out of 3, and they sweep them. They sweep Lakeside both matches and advance to the state tournament. I tell you what, Scaggs, that shocked me.
Man, I mean, they're a good team. I still thought they were pretty decent. I mean, they played, they lost to Lakeside in the regular season. I mean, they stole 1 set against them, I think, 3 weeks ago. But they're well coached. They've got good size on the front line. They serve well at a high ratio. So they serve with a high percentage. And so you look at what they're able to do. That's going to bode well if you're going to make this state tournament. That'll play in. Can they beat Valley? I don't know enough. You're probably going to have to tune into the state volleyball preview show with Brandon and Lindsay Togi Ayafuk, who did that earlier today, to get the full breakdown on these brackets. But I mean, they've got a puncher's chance maybe in that first match. If they run into Troy, Troy's good. I mean, we've talked about them at length. But it's I think a favorable draw. They're not on the 7 or the 8 line. So at least they're going to be able to get either a winnable match in the next round if they lose the first round. But yeah, it's kind of how it draws out. And I'll tell you what, I'd like Cami's shot as a 5 seed. I think that's an okay draw if I'm the Cubs matching up against Oakley. That you look at that round 1, if you play your A game, I mean, the way that they're able to play and as good as Krog is, like they're going to be just fine. So she played lights out in the district tournament, and they earned their way in. And yeah, I mean, the Cubs are going to be a formidable foe for anybody that's going to play them.
Yeah, talk about the district tournament. A week ago on Monday, we were, speaking about how Cami went in and upset Potlatch, and we're like, holy cow, they made it. They're going to get the 2 seed. There's no way they beat Potlatch. They beat Troy, and they go in and they beat Troy in 4, and it's their first title, and I think over a decade. Troy hasn't lost a district championship in over a decade. A couple stats: Emma Krog triple-double, had 28 kills, 15 digs, 10 assists. So Cami gets the upset, and then we're like, oh no, Troy is going to have to now face Potlatch. Well, that doesn't happen. Lapway upsets Potlatch in 5. So Lapway ends up playing in that play-in match against Troy. Troy ends up sweeping Lapway. And so a little too stressful for the Trojans, I would assume, but Troy gets fed with a, pretty easy matchup, I would think, against Wilder. I think Troy's gonna have a real chance to be playing Saturday afternoon or Friday afternoon. If I had to bet any money, Saturday.
I would say Saturday afternoon too. So
Saturday
they could be playing match 14 and 15. You never know. So yeah, it's gonna be an awesome opportunity for that group, and I'm excited for them and for the White Pine as a whole. I think Cami, like I said, got a good seed line at 5. Troy, if you're going to lose a match, it's better to lose it at districts than at state. So, I mean, let's be honest. So, yeah, it's going to be, getting that monkey off their back, I think, for the Trojans, kind of a little wake-up call maybe, and see them come out and regroup and refocus and see if they make a run. That's Butte County's a tough group too. So that should be a pretty balanced tournament, though. I look at it this year. You look at the field, there could be a couple upsets here and there, but it will take some Herculean efforts from some of the lower seed lines.
I'm with you there. All right, 3A. And we have the 2 teams from the Central Idaho League. Number 2, Kellogg. They swept the CIL to get in the spot where they punched their ticket to state. And then number 4, Priest River, a really favorable bid. They ended up sweeping Grangeville, and it was their first state tournament since 2015. So hats off to Priest River. And I'll be honest, Priest River, number 4 seed, I'd be pretty happy about that if I am a Spartans fan.
I was surprised on that one. I mean, I thought that they were probably going to be a 7 or an 8 just based upon playing a shorter schedule. They didn't play as full of the tournament load as, like, say, Kellogg. They're going to have their hands full with Nampa Christian round 1, though. Nampa Christian historically is a very strong volleyball program. So that, they're going to have a dogfight in their hands in that first round matchup. Kellogg with Firth, but they also got Melba and Malad on their side of the bracket. They're the 2 seed, but there's no favors on that bottom half. I mean, there's 3 really good teams down there. So, Kellogg, but I still like their chances. They played a tough schedule. They played some really good teams. They played the big schools. They did well against big schools. I think that set them up well for a nice run inside of the Mountains America Center down there in IF. Cool new venue that they're going to be playing in there. Like, I think it's only second year they've had volleyball in there. So kind of a sweet setup for the girls to travel and have a big arena to play in. So I think of all the brackets, 3A and 4A being there, have the cooler draw, the better draw of the other venues. And that's not poo-pooing on Capital or the other school hosting down in the SIC, but that's cool having it down there in an arena setup. That's going to be fun.
Yeah, no kidding. That looks like a lot of fun for sure. The first 2, 1A, 2A went up north, 3A, 4A head down south to Idaho Falls, and that's where Timberlake will be. Timberlake coming off of, they were able to take down Bonners Ferry in 4 sets to sweep them and punch their ticket to state, and then they had to play McCall in Weiser, and they were able to knock down McCall in 5 sets. They were actually trailing 13-9 in the final set, and it's their first state appearance since 2021. So hats off to Timberlake. I remember beginning of the year, or not beginning, but a couple of weeks ago when we met with Brandon. Brandon's like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if anybody from North Idaho is going to have a shot in 4A. Well, what do you know? Timberlake punched their tournament, and they're dealt with, just a Bear Lake team that's, man, I mean, 30-something and 2, like phenomenal year for Bear Lake. Not the best draw.
They drew the overwhelming number 1 seed. They will have their hands full in round 1. And I know that they beat McCall in the play-in game. District 3 and 4A wasn't the strongest of the conferences within the state this year. And, you can see it based on the seed line. Your champ is number 3, and then your second place team gets the 5 seed. So, if Timberlake wasn't in, I would have said that McCall Donnelly was probably going to be the 8 seed no matter what. Kimberly's really good too. Like, this is a tournament, I think it could go chalk. So we'll see how it plays out. I wouldn't be surprised to see a 6 seed Sugar Salem beat a Coal Valley. That wouldn't shock me at all, but we'll see how it plays out. But Timberlake's going to have they got a brutal draw.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. Just wait. We're not East Idaho fans, but yeah, just watch Sugar Salem be in the state title game on Saturday. It won't shock me, just the fact that sugar.
Yep.
All right, 5A. That one's going to be held at Timberline High School. No, not the one up in Weite, but the one in Boise. And we have number 3 Lakeland and number 6 Moscow. It's like, wow, I almost felt like we saw these teams like just a couple weeks ago. And it is. Lakeland was a team that was able to upset number 1 Lewiston, who came into the district championship as the favorite. And Lakeland went into Lewiston, was able to take down the Bengals, and then Moscow got the draw. They were the number 4 seed, so not quite last, or was that? Oh, man, I'm already losing track. They get the bid. They're the number 4 seed. They play Lewiston. They beat them in 4 sets. It was their first time in 4 tries, and they advanced to the play-in where they had to play Pocatello in Payette. And Moscow was able to knock off Pocatello in 5 to punch their ticket to where they're playing Lakeland again.
I mean, for the Bears to get a win over Pokey is a big win. And, because that was a team I think the East was pretty high on this year. Don't mark my words, but if I'm remembering some prior conversations that you and I had with like Brandon and with Sean Kane, there's some fanfare. And so to get the win to even get in the tournament being a team like Pocatello, and then here they are, they're matched up with league foe Lakeland. We'll see that in 5A kind of be a recurring theme today in other sports. But yeah, I mean, the Hawks, they've earned the respect. I mean, their record, you look at it, it's not going to overwhelm you. They're like, oh man, they got a bunch of losses, and you're like, no, look at who they've played. They played a murderer's row schedule, and I think it set them up really nicely for a state volleyball tournament. Didn't necessarily help them without picking up some of those wins along the way, but they took care of business in districts, so they get the respect from the rankings at the 3 seed. They're gonna have Shelley on their half for Twin Falls in Moscow. I think that it's a little more balanced on the bottom, but you got Hillcrest sitting at top at 1. That's going to be interesting to see if the Hawks play well. Don't be surprised. Don't be shocked to see them playing for a championship. I really am still high on this Lakeland group. I mean, there's a lot of returning pieces from last year's run with that team, and it should be interesting to see. I mean, I think, it's a rough draw playing a league foe in round 1. Moscow can make things interesting and make some noise on the backside of the bracket for sure, the way they've been playing down the stretch.
Yeah, with you there. Lakeland is the team that was the number 1 seed heading into the state tournament last year, lost to Twin Falls, and as the 8 seed, Twin Falls was the 8 seed. They then ended up meeting each other in the state title game where they ended up losing to Twin. So look at that rematch, Twin Falls and Lakeland. That could be a potential semifinal matchup. That'd be a fun rematch to see as well. Yep. Lakeland and Moscow did play twice in the regular season. They actually didn't play at districts. And so third time around, we'll see how that will work out for the Hawks and the Bears. All right, 6A at Capitol High School. The lone team from North Idaho is Coeur d'Alene, and they're matched up with number 5 Rigby. I'm okay with that. And then they get number 1 Skyview. I will say they did avoid number 2 Madison, who's the defending state champs, who's won 42 straight matches dating back to last year after they'd won state. So they're 32-0 this year. I think that is a good thing to be away from number 2 Madison, but you're still with number 1 Skyview, who is a perennial powerhouse just about every single year.
Yeah, I mean, if Coeur d'Alene can get the win in round 1 and play Skyview and kind of use that as your litmus test of how are we doing in this tournament, how's it matching up, and say they drop the Skyview. Say they beat Skyview, I mean, that's huge, and you get the monkey off your back. But if they say they drop the match to Skyview and they go to the back side of the bracket, they would go to the opposite side, and it would be, I think, a winnable match. It's teams that they've seen. So I think it plays to the favor of Coeur d'Alene of making a run out. If they do end up the backside of the bracket, they could make a run of things and either find themselves in the top 3. I mean, that realistically, that's not out of the cards by any stretch. Skyview's good, Madison's good, Rocky's good, Coeur d'Alene's good. You have 4 really good programs that are sitting here in the top 4 seed lines. There's no easy matches once you get to state in 6A. It's you're going to earn it if you're going to find a trophy. So the Vikings have a winnable match 1 with Rigby. They're just going to have to show up and play hard. I mean, like, that end of the day, if you're a coach, it's going to take focus. It's going to take drive and getting those digs, getting the extra effort plays from your lineup to give yourself a chance to keep battling. That's where it's going to be won and lost.
With you there. So that tournament will wrap up this weekend, and we will hopefully be bringing home some sort of blue trophy to back up north, and that would be a good way to cap off the volleyball season. We'll touch on that next week. We'll also hit on cross country, as that state tournament state meet as is held at the Lewis Clark State College cross country course, and that will be another topic. We'll hit on swimming. I believe also had districts. Maybe we'll hit on swimming. Who knows? There's a lot to talk about. All right, football, Scaggs. Let's do our stickers first. Just because. Who is your football or your helmet sticker for the week after last week?
Gosh, man, there was some great performances statewide, but I mean, I'm gonna have to stick with the game that I called on Friday night at Lakeland. Griffin Tamagni, like, he was held to 40, I think it was 46 yards at half, and he finished the game with 242 yards rushing, I believe it was, 3 touchdowns. If you get a chance to go watch any game this year and go back in the archives that we have on IdahoSports.com and the game streams link, go watch the Lewiston game from, like, it was a great game back and forth. Like, I mean, it was just a tough, gritty game until like the last 4:29. 4 minutes and 29 seconds left in that game. It was 15-10 Lakeland. The final score ended up being 42-17. It was the most wild 2-minute and 25-second stretch of football I might have ever seen. It was absolutely bananas what happened in that game. But Griffin, he was averaging, I think it was only like 1.9 yards per carry, 2 yards per carry through the first half. And then he just absolutely turned it on. His line started getting a better drive. You could see them kind of wear down Lewiston's defensive line, who's great. Don't get me wrong. The Bengals are very good up front. And Lakeland just started getting pushed, and it went from like 1 yard, 2 yard, 3 yard carry to 6, 7. Then he busted like a 26-yarder, and then he got a 40-yard touchdown. And then the floodgates open, and he had an 86-yarder at one point. So yeah, Griffin Tamagni gets my helmet sticker this week. Just a phenomenal effort from the junior from Lakeland.
All right, I don't have quite the explanation. I'm going to go with Quarter Christ. Beckett Bayer, I believe, had 2 receiving touchdowns, 1 pick six, and a kickoff return in their win last week. That's somebody we don't typically talk about. It's typically always Grant Clemens, John Denke, and that was the name that
Maybe
stood
Craig
out for
Haynes,
me.
but yeah, no, Bayer's been he's been a nice weapon for that Saints group, and they're you talk about seed lines, we'll talk about their bracket, but I mean he's a big part of the reason why they're where they're at. So that's an awesome job for the Saints.
The other person I wanted to recognize was Conrad Hyatt. Had 4 carries, 148 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a 68-yard punt return. He lightened the load for Bonners Ferry, not giving Keenan Moss as many carries as he needed in their last week's win against Timberlake. So that was my last one. But Scaggs, let's
I think we
hop
could
in.
give a fourth this week, and I'll give a fourth.
Do it.
Because you pick 2, I'll pick 2. I'm going to give it to Jack Barta from St. Mary's. Set the school record for passing, career record. Hats off to him. It came at the coolest time. It was at the end of the game in St. Mary's game last week. He set the record on a pass to his brother in his senior season. That's an awesome moment and very worthy of a helmet sticker just based on the career that Jack Barta was able to put together for the Lumberjacks.
Absolutely. I hope Brock and Jack kept that game ball from Hayden Humphreys, and now we're hanging it up somewhere in their house. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, hopefully Hump isn't like, hey, our budget's light. We're going to need that ball for practice next year.
Hopefully not.
I'm sure he gave him the football, but yeah, no, that was an awesome deal for Jack.
Absolutely. Well, let's hit the bracket, Scaggs. Let's start at the top instead of the bottom. Let's look at 6A. All right, Coeur d'Alene. Again, the lone team in the 6A classification gets the first round bye, and they're going to be paired up against a Madison team or Boise. Madison has Matt Pancari at the head coach spot, and he's beat them before. And even looking ahead against Timberline potentially, what do you expect from the Vikings in the next couple weeks?
I mean, I think that they're going to get around a quarterfinal win. Getting Madison on the road certainly helps. Madison's coming off a big win over Highland, so I can recognize that. Boise snuck in. I don't want to call it a debacle. Like I think it's just it. What happened with the rankings, and there was a great episode from Brandon Bainey on Monday that explained it. He's talked with Chad Williams with the IHSAA about the cutoff timing for entering scores. Well, the cutoff didn't get met, and that's why the rankings ended up where they were at. The cutoff was midnight Saturday. The first rankings that update Sunday morning, that's what they go with for seeding the state tournament. And that's what they ended up with. That's how Boise got the 12 seed. So, I look at Madison, that first round matchup. I think they're going to beat Boise. Just the way that they're able to move the ball. They can control the line of scrimmage with that group. They're going to be just fine. Getting on the road to Coeur d'Alene, I'm going to give Coeur d'Alene a puncher's chance in a home game. Weather could be iffy next week. Just looking ahead in the 10-day forecast, it could be a little funky with weather. So I think Coeur d'Alene could get the win in the quarterfinals. Quarterfinals have treated them very well the last few years. They would have to be on the road against Timberline. I think that game would be at Donna Larson Park, if I'm not mistaken. I know they wouldn't be having a home game against Timberline. I think Timberline gets the host this year because Coeur d'Alene got a host last year. That's a tough matchup. Timberline's offense is pretty vaunted. They've got D1 guys all over the field. They've got great receivers, a really good quarterback. That's going to be not playing necessarily into the hands of the Vikings as far as matchup goes. If they're healthy and they've gotten all their guys back, because I saw Ben Murray's back, Ty Pollen's playing. They've got dudes in that defense that can play really hard and play well. They could keep it close. If they can limit Timberline's big play explosive ability and keep it into kind of a knockout, drag out type game, it'll play into the hands of the Vikings. But if Timberline's able to just get those chunk plays and they end up playing from behind, that does not favor the Vikings very well to play from behind in a game, because that's just not how they're built now without having Caden Simmons back there slinging the rock. So they're more effective running with Tanner Stern back there. And he's got a great arm, but I don't think he's got the downfield ability that Caden has. I think that's why they were splitting so many reps this year. But yeah, it'll be interesting. 6A is just, you look at the top half of that bracket and it is brutal. You got Rocky, you've got Eagle, you've got Rigby, you've got Mountain View and Highland all sitting there in the top half of that bracket. That is a meat grinder. Whoever gets into the state title game out of that one has earned it, because I would say the favorites on the top half. Personally, I think Timberline really beating Eagle on Friday night is a great win for that group. But I still think Eagle's a favorite. I think Rigby's a favorite, and I still think Rocky's, you can't overlook what Rocky Mountain can do either.
Yeah, well, and you do look at, the lone loss for Timberline this year came versus a Middleton team who would
Timberline's,
face them.
and that's the thing. They may not face Timberline. They may face Middleton, Coeur d'Alene. So,
And that's a team that runs the ball like 40 times a game. And so that would be a little different of a
Coeur d'Alene beat
look.
them last year at home in the quarters, but it would be that's a tough group, though. They got a great defense. Middleton does. Their middle linebacker is as good as anyone in the state of Idaho. So they would have their hands full there. But if it's Middleton versus Coeur d'Alene versus Timberline and Coeur d'Alene, that is a more favorable matchup for the Vikings. Weirdly, I think that plays into their style a heck of a lot better.
Yeah, with you there. Yeah, we'll touch on it in the next couple of weeks. 5A. All right, this one's hard to read, so get your full screen mode on and hop in. All right, at the top, let's start at the bottom instead, Scaggs. We already know Lewiston Lakeland. We know it's going to happen. I'm kidding. But at the bottom, Minico, the number 6 seed, is gonna host number 11 Sandpoint. I got some backlash in the comments, Brandon and I did, for saying that they backed into the state tournament. And I think I don't want to speak on it too much more, but the tiebreaker, we were expecting a lot more in the Kansas City tiebreaker, but I think Sandpoint got the best draw with lining up with Minico heading into
absolutely.
Friday.
Yeah, and then you would have possibly a game against Skyline, who's the 3 seed, who's still very good. Got some great weapons on that team. This is a winnable game for Sandpoint. If there was a Vegas line on this game, Sandpoint could come in the favorite early. And that's kind of weird saying that, but you look at the rankings, Sandpoint, the last time they played a full football game, they beat Lakeland 31-27. Their offense showed up. The tiebreak, I don't put a lot of focus on a tiebreaker, and actually I think it helps Sandpoint because it shakes the rust off, so they're not coming off of a bye into a playoff game. So getting that kind of shell shock, or not shell shock, I should say, but just the disappointment of how the tiebreaker went for the Bulldogs, I think could help them and give them a little bit of a chip on their shoulder going into a game against Minico, who got absolutely throttled by a team that Sandpoint beat earlier in the season in Twin Falls. So Sandpoint's just going to come in. If they play well on defense, because they've showed flashes this year on defense, they love getting turnovers. That's a team that forces turnovers like crazy. They can get you with the run game enough to where they get you on your heels to kind of pack the box a little bit, and then they get those outside matchups. Gomez and Yarborough are hard to match up against, and you get, Buck out at quarterback. That he can sling the rock. And so Sandpoint, I think, is balanced enough to be a team to look at saying, I don't want to face them if I'm anybody. Like, that's a team that can, if they show up and they're on their A game, they are hard to play. And I know that they lost big to Lewiston and they lost big to Coeur d'Alene, but those are kind of, I don't want to say statistical outliers. You have to look at the body of work, obviously. But you look at the pieces that are in place. That's a unit. I as a coach, I would be not happy drawing Sandpoint in my first round matchup as an 11 seed.
No, not at all. I mean, this is a team that easily could have been hosting a first round playoff game at home.
If seeding went based on how actual seeding is instead of the 8 auto bid system, Sandpoint would be hosting a home game round 1. So
Yeah.
It's just I don't like the system for 5A. I think they have too many teams, and I don't think they give enough respect to body of work. And they just hand out those auto bids like candy to some of the other districts, and it sucks. Let's just be honest, because Lakeland should be hosting a game too, and Lewiston for winning districts.
Yep, with you there. No, Sandpoint has a real shot. Minnick was a team that hasn't beat anybody this year. The 3 times they've been challenged, I think it was, oh man, I'm drawing a blank. I think it was Madison, BK, and Twin. They lost by 20, 30 points. So what's it look like when you play another good team like Sandpoint that has athletes? I don't know. I would favor Sandpoint. The other game, Lewiston and Lakeland Scaggs. You're on the call. You've seen it 3 times in a week. Any differencing of opinion you have heading into this game? Do you think it could go any other way?
I think Lakeland figured more out towards the end of that game about who they were than who Lewiston is. Because their schedule wasn't necessarily challenging. Like, let's just be real. Like, their schedule, I mean, I think they'll admit it was weak. And, they're a good team with a weak schedule. Does that play favors for you when you finally get your first league test and you have to face Sandpoint? It didn't. They came out of a bye playing 2 weaker opponents, and it showed. They were rusty. They turned the ball over. They were sloppy. They didn't surmount, issues at the goal line. And when they played Lewiston, they were able to overcome that. They had the early turnover throwing the pick against Lewiston, and they played Lewiston tight. They kept Lewiston from getting the big play, which was huge from that defense. Lewiston did not get a huge play on offense. I think they had 1 play over 25 yards the entire game. They just gave up the kick return for the touchdown. I mean, but that was kind of an anomaly because they ended up getting one of their own on the very next play. So, Lewiston kind of let that one get out of hand. I think is more what you would look at if you're Coach Hobart. Like, hey, we played really disciplined football. We played a gritty team that's really physical, and we just let it get away from us because we lost focus. And that's exactly, I think, what happened. Is that you watch Tamagni's run when he went 86 yards. I mean, he zigzagged his way up the field, and I'm not taking away from his effort because he did the job he needed to do to get it in the end zone. But you had safeties with their back to the play on a running play. You had missed tackles on that play as well. There was things that, like, as a coach, you can look at going, hey, we clean this up. It's a 26-yard gain instead of an 86-yard touchdown. So there's some hope on that one. Game prep for this one, it's going to be easy. I mean, if you know an opponent by this point because you've seen Lewiston's best inside the 25, and you've seen Lewiston's best the length of the field in the entirety of a football game. And the same goes for Lakeland. If you're Lewiston, you look at Lakeland, we've seen their best in the goal line. We've seen Lakeland's best in the entirety of a game. So a great matchup and an 8-9 that shouldn't be an 8-9. I think both these teams should be hosting a game. Lewiston's schedule was so ridiculously tough. They got hurt because of some of the losses that they just picked up along the way. But that's the best 3-win team in the state of Idaho, in my opinion. Lewiston is. Like, that's a group that they're playing better now than they were earlier in the season, and they're getting back to full strength. So the question is going to be, one thing I did notice on Monday is Bagley was hobbling a little bit. I don't know if he had a tight hamstring or something like that, but they're going to need him to be full go, and he plays both ways. And they're going to have bodies and guys that are just willing to maybe throw in here and there to give a break. Because that was the thing that was noticeable, was the 2-way players for the Bengals. The attrition started to show as the game wore on. And so if you're Coach Hobart, who can I put in those positions to maybe give a series off, just to give those guys fresher legs as the game wears on?
Yeah. Well, the winner will likely take on Hillcrest. We'll touch on that more next week with whoever walks away with that win. In 4A, Bonners Ferry gets the last bid in on being the district champ, and they will take on American Falls. Keenan Moss leading the way. Scaggs, what are the chances Bonners Ferry pulls off the upset?
I mean, if they can keep Greg in the pocket and make him beat you with his arm versus his legs, Bonners Ferry's got a shot. Just if they can control the line of scrimmage, with the running game. It's not going to just be Keenan Moss. They're going to have to get Conrad Hyatt in the game and have him be effective as well. Utilizing some of their other weapons. Maybe it's a mismatch with Sulea Bubakari at tight end and being able to get him involved in the passing game as a threat and play action. They're going to have to be able to, one, they can't turn the ball over. If they go 4 and out or get a turn, it's the same as turning the ball over, in my opinion. You're going to have to close out drives, get deep, use up time. Don't give American Falls a lot of clock. It's a team I saw 2 years ago in the playoffs. It's a good group, and they only got better the last 2 years. But the Badgers, I think, are underseeded at 12, like ridiculous. That's a better team than a 12 seed, in my opinion. It's a deep field. Like we're just going to be honest and call it what it is. 4A is a deep field this year, and it's going to be a battle for them hitting the road like that and getting on down there and trying to pick up a win.
Yeah, with you. All right, 3A, the lone team from North Idaho, Priest River. Grangeville got squeezed out, had a chance, and had no real fighting chance. There was nothing they could do. They were on idle last week, and so got kicked to the curb. And Firth and Melba hopped ahead of them with 2 and 5, 2 and 6, and 3 and 5 records. So Priest River gets the bid. We don't know who they're going to play yet. It looks like it could be like Aberdeen. What do you think about Priest River matching up with one of those solid teams from Southern Idaho?
That's a tough game,
early prediction of what could even happen, but I don't see any upsets coming in the first round of the state tournament in this bracket.
No, I see it going to chalk coming out of the first round. So if that is what the case is, Aberdeen is looking like the draw, which would be a really tough game for Priest River to draw them in the first round. Granted, they're going to be at home, so they'll have to have the travel legs, and everything else will Aberdeen, but defense travels. And so Priest River is going to have to figure something out that they can't get so one-dimensional that they play themselves into playing from behind, because that offense isn't built to play from behind. It's just not. They get a lead, they can keep it with the running game, but they can't turn the ball over. They're going to have to hope that the last few weeks have been good to them as far as getting everybody back in the lineup. And so it's going to be a tough game. I mean, we're looking 2 weeks ahead, obviously, but I'll just say this with Grangeville getting snubbed. I don't get it. I ran the metrics of scoring totals. I looked at the metrics of wins versus quality opponent versus not quality opponent, losses and everything else, and compared them to Firth and Melba. Nothing in there made sense for Grangeville to get left out. I don't understand what the metric was that was the trigger to kick out a team with a winning record. So, I mean, that my heart goes out to the Grangeville seniors, because that's their last go and they didn't even really know it. And I said last week, hey, they look like they could be safe standing in the doorway, but the doors hit, and they ended up hitting them in the rear. That's the downside of how things flipped. And it took Melba beating Marsing was what got Melba in. And that one to me shocked me, because one, for my game day picks, I wanted Marsing to win because I had him pick the win, but I didn't call that Marsing loss to Melba. I really thought Marsing would take care of business, and they didn't. But
and oddly, Grangeville was actually the second team in. Soda Springs bumped ahead of them with a 1-8 record. How that happens,
I don't get it.
I don't understand.
And like I said, I ran the points for and the points against for both teams and wins and teams and losses and overall records, and it didn't match up. I don't know what was in the magic sauce with Max Preps there, but something didn't take place, and it could have been if they played a team from out of state, which I don't know if they did this year, that didn't get scores reported in time, or one of those other schools played something that didn't get reported and it gave them a favorable bump. I don't know, but just it sucks. It's a bummer.
Yeah, the lone senior for Grangeville, Kobe Beach. Next year, they will have 10 to 15 plus. There's a lot of seniors next year for Grangeville, but that will have to wait. All right, 2A. We have a lot of games up here. This is what's keeping us busy this year. That's how we're getting paid. It is 2A. All
Let's
right,
just talk about the games this week. We don't need to prognosticate
Yeah,
Kendrick
I
yet.
agree.
But
I
yeah.
agree. Skaggs, I'll give it to you this way. I think Kamei wins very handily against Glens Ferry. I don't think it's close. Oh, that's my honest opinion. Logos Oakley, I think that's a tough game. Oakley is this is the one team that I said I wouldn't want to play right now. So I think those two at the top are fairly straightforward. I think Logos Kamei win easily. You can let me know if you would disagree, but I think the two games at the bottom of your bracket, Prairie versus Valley at home, is a tough matchup for Prairie. They just played them earlier in the season. They got away from them and they were able to come away with a win, but it was, it took a kickoff return to kind of get some breathing room. And then you got a Hagerman team that throws the ball really well against a Potlatch team that doesn't have a ton of speed. And so if Potlatch is able to get home, I think Potlatch has a chance against Wyatt Maven Camp, but I think it's a tough draw for both of those two schools. What say you?
No, I would agree. I think it's a tough draw. Valley got a huge win over Cary last week, and that team looks to be rolling at the right time. And then Hagerman has picked up a couple impressive victories as well in their own right. I mean, they kind of looked dead to rights at one point this year. I was like, man, they didn't look too hot. Their chances weren't looking great, and they've been able to put together some wins. And Potlatch is going to have their hands full playing a road game at Hagerman. I mean, it gets tough down there, and you can ask any number of teams that have played against them the last few years. You're kind of almost playing like, imagine that you've spotted them 10 points already, and you got to play that way and just go at them. The one thing is, like, with the running attack from Potlatch, it's going to hopefully keep the game a little bit tighter as long as they're able to move the ball. If they have trouble moving, I mean, that thing could get out of hand quickly. So they got to be careful there and be able to, just maintain possession and keep things moving forward. Prairie Valley, I think, is the game of the week of any classification. I think that's the best matchup of any first round game that we have statewide. That's a great ball game that could have been a team you say, like, I could see that as a semifinal game. And just so happens we get it round one. So Prairie will have their hands full against that Valley team in a rematch.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. I'm really looking forward to covering that at 1 p.m. All right, 1A.
Afternoon start.
Yeah, afternoon start. It'll be real good. It'll be nice and warm on the prairie. All right, in 1A, both teams at the bottom of the half of the brackets, Timberline and Genesee, as well as Wallace and Salmon River. All right, Skaggs, pick one of those three teams. Who do you think can go the furthest?
Who do I think could go the furthest versus who has the more favorable seed line?
Sure, let's do that too.
Yeah, because I think furthest on talent, I would say Wallace. Seed line, and we also saw Genesee play Wallace head to head and beat them. Wallace, when they're on, is as good as anyone. Wallace, when they're not on, is not a playoff team. So that's they can be Jekyll and Hyde at times. Genesee's been the most consistent team. Obviously, they did lose to Deary last week, which is a team that's missing from this mix. So folks are looking at this going, hey, didn't Deary just beat Genesee for the league championship? They did. They get a bye. But the downside of this is the whole thing gets reseeded next week, except for Council being at number one. So it's going to be interesting to see how this thing shakes up, because we don't even know what the matchups will look like next week. So yeah, that's going to be a whole lot of fun. Genesee Timberline, I think Genesee wins handily. Wallace and Salmon River is going to be a knockout drag out. That's going to be a fun game in Wallace. If the offense is clicking and things are moving for Wallace, the Miners, they're as good as anyone. But Salmon River is a tough opponent. That league, I think, gets slighted a little bit for just how brutally tough Tri-Valley, Salmon River, and Council are. Like, it's just those three teams are brutal. They're just very, very disciplined and very good and extremely physical.
Yeah, I agree. I think Salmon Rivers had played a really tough schedule. Skaggs, I will apologize. I kind of gave you a poor question, probably the worst bracket I could have gave you, the who's going to go the furthest, and since there is no indication of where anyone's going to end up. All right, last thing, champion pick, Skaggs. And, you and I, the lone people to pick a District 3 winner out of 1A, Council and Tri-Valley. We both stick with Kendrick as the state champion in 2A. In 3A, I go Ryrie, you go Westside. In 4A, I pick Kimberly, you go Fruitland. 5A, we both go Hillcrest, and then 6A, you go Rigby, and I go Rocky Mountain. How confident you feel heading into this?
I think the one I'm least confident in is probably 1A. I like Council a lot, but I think a lot can happen in 1A. I think that it's probably from 1 through 5 or 6, probably one of the more competitive. I know everybody likes Carey. Carey's young, and youth in a state tournament can be either a huge advantage or a massive disadvantage. So that's why I went with Council, just because of the experience with that group. But I mean, the other thing is, like, we didn't talk about, Court of Christ is still there, and that's a team that, if I'm facing anyone, they could get Carey on the road next week. You talk about a fun ball game. That could be awesome. You have a Coeur d'Alene game Friday night, and you get a Council, or you get a Court of Christ and Carey game on Saturday. It could be a ton of fun. I think the one thing I look at 4A, why I pick Fruitland, Titus Vidlak might be the best quarterback in the state of Idaho. Like, he is just a phenomenal football player. He's savvy. He plays extremely well. He's got a great offensive line in front of him. He's got some weapons. I picked Westside because it's death taxes in Westside in the state playoffs. You just don't pick a bit against them. I know Ryrie's very good, but Westside, just seemingly in the playoffs, you get there, they seem to have everyone's number. Hillcrest is a very good team. I think they've got probably the best overall player in Sweetwood. In 5A, BK was my other pick that I could have gone with. I just don't like District 3, and I figured I'm not like Max, where I'm going to sell out. No, I'm just joking, but I've been making fun of Max or poking fun at him all week because he's been getting ripped by people locally about picking the brackets. So they think he works for the IHSAA when he's just a reporter. So yeah, it's, I mean, and then it's the same thing for Westside applies for Rigby. I mean, they changed their name to the Red Devils once they get into the playoffs, and that's a team that you just, man, you can't count them out. And they've got some phenomenal players on that team, and they play a rigorous schedule. BK, the only team to beat them, and they beat them shorthanded. Rigby was without a couple of their better players in that BK game, and that's their lone loss on the year. But I don't know. What say you? I mean, you're kind of the outlier there with three teams that nobody else even touched.
Yeah, that was a little I don't know. I feel good about my 1A. I do. I like Tri-Valley where they're at. I think the fact
that's a good pick too. They're very
Council,
good.
Carey, and Court of Christ all on one side, and Tri-Valley matched up with Gen FC. I think that's a really favorable matchup. Everyone thinks Hanson's going to throw the upset at Tri-Valley. I think Tri-Valley's good. Ryrie,
Brian Hall would disagree with you. He thinks Hanson's pretty dang good. He's a Hanson
everybody
guy.
Thinks Hanson's good. I don't know, and I don't have enough to speak on. I just know Tri-Valley. If you can hang with Council, you're legit. Ryrie, I think I'm with Joel and Max. I think the magical season continues. They've had a heck of a season, and I just want to see it end. Kimberly is definitely the wild card. I went with Kimberly. They have McCrae Bruning back. They have the Osterman kid at receiver now. I feel like when Bruning came back the first time, it was his first game against Sugar, and they lost by like 30, and it wasn't really close. Since then, he's dealing. He has like 20 touchdowns and 2 picks. He's been playing incredible. And so I'm hoping for a Kimberly, just miracle, Cinderella story. That's what I'm hoping for Kimberly as the 4 seed. Hillcrest, I don't really need to talk about. Rocky Mountain, that's the one I'm honestly second guessing now after looking at it. I don't know. Just with the bracket, I'm kind of wondering what I was thinking yesterday. That would be the one I'd maybe pull back and probably switch to Rigby, but I'm going to ride it out and see if, Rayshawn Jones and the Rocky crew can pull it out for me.
I'll say this. If I was going to have any different bracket, it probably would have been what Max picked. Like,
yep.
That was what I was telling Sean yesterday. I was like, I'm going to pick, Rigby, but I want to pick Eagle. Because I've seen Eagle in the playoffs, and they're really good, and Rigby could get beat up a little bit, or they could get beat out by somebody else. So, I mean, that's how good that, like that. Yeah, it's just, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how things shake up. It's going to be, I think, this year a really fun tournaments as a group. You're going to see some upsets this year. I don't think you're going to see them in the opening weekend. I think you're going to see those in the quarters or the semis. Some of the teams come out of the woodwork that have done the body of work all year are the ones that are going to probably flex on some teams and show up. Like last year, we saw Minico beat what was it, BK?
Bishop Kelly.
Yeah. So, you could see a couple games like that this year. Sean picking Sugar Salem. It's another team that's always there. It's a safe bet. Fruitland, there's like a lot of momentum with that group, but at the same time, if it all crumbles, it crumbles quickly. So, I could look great or have egg on my face after the quarterfinals. So you never know.
Yeah, no, and even the BK pick, that's a good pick. I mean, BK is receiving all of the media poll votes for first place. Bishop Kelly's a good pick. So, we'll keep track on it. We'll keep an eye.
I was shocked nobody picked Skyline. I really was. Like, that's the first time forever that Skyline is like a legit underdog in most of the matchups they'll walk into in the playoffs.
Yeah, they could be facing, Sandpoint next week. So who knows?
Maybe Sandpoint the Cinderella.
Yeah, Sandpoint. We didn't pick a lot of teams from up north. We didn't even touch on, Kendrick. Kendrick was our only team from up north that we picked, and I think that one's pretty self-explanatory. But
there's teams that it's like a business decision, right? You got to make a business decision. If I want to win, like, would I love to see Lakeland or Lewiston or Sandpoint at 5A win a championship? Oh, heck yeah, I would. I would love it. But at the same time, it's a business decision. I want to win the pool. So yeah.
Absolutely. A business decision might be the title. Who knows? All right, Scaggs, that'll wrap up our episode of the North Idaho Prepcast. Episode 12 coming to a close. Next week will be a lot of fun with a lot of the results in volleyball, cross country, swimming. We got it all. It'll be a lot of fun, and football. So until then, we will see you next time on IdahoSports.com.